Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, January 26, 2023. Today I'm going to recap the college basketball, NBA, and NHL games from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's games in each sport. We'll go over Australian Open results from yesterday, and we will look ahead to what's to come into tonight. I think it is the men's semifinals, yes. And then we'll go over the current leaderboard at the the Farmers Insurance Open. NBA trade deadline talk, news and notes, and best bet. College basketball is where we'll begin today. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to a busy slate for tonight. New Hampshire over Albany, 84-65. Number 13, Xavier over number 19, UConn, 82-79. UNC Asheville over Presbyterian, 88-80 in overtime. Number 3, Houston over UCF, 82-71. Number 4, Tennessee over Georgia, 70-41. Hartford over Stonehill, 73-56. West Virginia over Texas Tech, 76-61. Temple over South Florida, 79-76 in overtime. Lehigh over Holy Cross, 74-68. Lafayette over Loyola Maryland, 62-46. American over Army, 63-61. Pitt over Wake, 81-79. Vermont over Binghamton, 80-55. Maine over UMass Lowell, 75-70. NJIT over UMBC, 69-65. Navy over Bucknell, 63-46. Maryland over Wisconsin, 73-55. Northwestern over Nebraska, 78-63. Florida over South Carolina, 81-60. George Washington over St. Joe's, 92-91 in overtime. UMass over Richmond, 85-76. Duquesne over Loyola Chicago, 72-58. VCU over George Mason, 72-52. Fordham over St. Bonaventure, 79-68. Rhode Island over Dayton, 75-70. Gardner-Webb over SC Upstate, 78-66. Winthrop over Charleston Southern, 76-64. Campbell over High Point, 72-64. The Citadel over Western Carolina, 81-70. Wofford over Chattanooga, 85-80. UNT Greensboro over VMI, 62-50. Mercer over East Tennessee State, 71-67 in overtime. Furman over Sanford, 91-84 in overtime. Purdue Fort Wayne over IUPUI, 81-75. Stephen F. Austin over Texas Rio Grande, 83-66. Northern Iowa over Valpo, 77-66. Belmont over Evansville, 73-64. Bradley over Illinois State, 79-75 in overtime. Cal Baptist over Texas Arlington, 74-66. Number 23, Providence over Butler, 79-58. Number 2, Alabama over Mississippi State, 66-63. Texas A&M upsets number 15, Auburn, 79-63. Tulane over Wichita State, 95-90 in overtime. Boston College over Louisville, 75-65. Creighton over St. John's, 104-76. Indiana over Minnesota, 61-57. Stanford over Chicago State, 72-65. And San Diego State over Utah State, 85-75. All right, busy day today. 5 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. You have St. Fran, Brooklyn, and Wagner. My line's Wagner, 9.5 total, 128.75. And it is Wagner by 9.5 total, 123.5 over. 6:30, Georgia State, App State. My line's App State by 4 total, 132 and 3/20, and it's 6.5 and 126.5 over. Eastern Kentucky and Bellarmine. My line's Eastern by 1/2 total, 135 and 3/4, and it's 1.5 and 137.5. Slight under. 7 o'clock. CBS Sports Network, Middle Tennessee at number 21 FAU. Mine's FAU by 11.5 total, 138. And it's 8.5 and 135.5. I'm going to lay the points with Florida Atlantic. ESPN 2, SMU Memphis. My line's Memphis by 23 and 3/4 total, 146. And it's 12.5 and 150.5. I'm going to lay the points. Western Kentucky and FIU. My line's Western by 4.25 total, 143 and 11/20, and it's FIU by 1.5 total, 144.5. I'm going to take Western plus 1.5 and plus 102. Fairfield and Mount St. Mary's. My line is Fairfield by 9.75 total, 128 and 1/5. And we got 1.5 and 124.5. I'm going to lay the points with Fairfield. Iowa and Michigan State on Fox Sports 1. My line's Michigan State by 6.25 total, 145 and 2/5, and it's 2.5 and 145.5. I'm going to lay the points with Michigan State. Longwood Radford on ESPNU. My line is Longwood by 6 3/4, total 138 and a fifth. And it's Radford 1.5, total 131.5. The question is, do I take Longwood getting the 1.5, or do I take the over? So I'm going to take Longwood plus the 1.5 and plus 102 to win. LIU and Sacred Heart. My line is Sacred Heart by 20 3/4, so 144.5, and it is 12.5 and 148.5. I'm going to lay the points. Merrimack and Central Connecticut. My line is Merrimack by 2 1/4, total 127 and 9/10 or 9/20. And it is 1.5 and 118.5 over. St. Fran, PA, and Fairleigh Dickinson. My line's Fairleigh Dickinson by 2, total 149 and 7/20. And it is 4.5 and 150.5. I'm going to take St. Fran, PA, getting the points. Yale Monroe and Marshall. My line is Marshall 19 3/4, total 142 and 3/5. And it's 15.5 and 147.5. The question is, lay the points or take the under. I'm going to take the under. Coastal Carolina and James Madison. My line is James Madison by 11.5, total 149 and 3/5. And it is 11.5 and 151.5. I'm going to take the slight under. South Dakota and Western Illinois. My line's Western by 2.5, total 142 and 9/10, and it's 4.5 and 142.5. I'm going to take South Dakota in the points. Edwardsville and Western Illinois, Tennessee Tech on ESPN News. My line is Edwardsville by 3, total 142 and 11/20, and it is 2.5 and 138.5 over. Little Rock and Morehead State. My line is Morehead by 15 1/4, total 145 and a 10th. And we got 8.5 and 143.5. I would have laid the points of Morehead State. Lindenwood and Tennessee Martin. My line's Martin by 19 1/4, total 145 and 3/5. And we got 9.5 and 144.5. I'm going to lay the points. Milwaukee Wright State. My line is Wright by 2.5, total 149.5, and it is 4.5 and 156.5. I like the under a lot. Green Bay, Northern Kentucky. Mine's Northern by 28 1/4, total 133 and 9/10, and it's 17.5 and 124.5. I'm going to lay the points in Northern Kentucky. I have two big edges, one the over and one in Northern Kentucky. Delaware Hampton. My line is UDEL by 18 3/4, so I'm 43.5, and it is 9.5 and 142.5. I'm going to lay the points at UDEL. Drexel and NCA&T. My line is Drexel by 7, total 136 3/4. And we got 2.5 and 138.5. I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Drexel. Monmouth and UNC Wilmington. My line's Wilmington by 27, total 133 and a 5th. And it is 16.5 and 127.5. I'm going to lay the points. Hofstra Alon. My line's Hofstra 23, total 139 and a 10th or 20th. And it's 9.5 and 139.5. I'm going to lay the points. Stony Brook and William and Mary. My line's William and Mary by 4 1/4, total 133 and 3/5. And it is 4.5 and 133.5. Ooh, pretty close. Slightly into Stony Brook. Northeastern Towson. My line is Towson 17, total 134 and 9/20. And it is 9.5 and 127.5. I'm gonna lay the points with Towson. Florida Gulf Coast and Queens. My line's Gulf Coast by 7 3/4, total 145 and 3/10. And it's Queens 1.5, total 151.5. I'm gonna take Gulf Coast plus the 1.5 and plus 105. Jacksonville and North Alabama. My line is Jacksonville by 10 3/4, total 137 and 1/20. And it's 4.5 and 131.5. This is tough. I'm going to take the over. Stetson Liberty. My line's Liberty by 17 3/4, so 139 and 7/10. And it's 13.5 and 134.5. Over. Austin Payne, Kennesaw State at 7:30. My line is Kennesaw by 15 3/4, so 140 and 1/5. And it's 10.5 and 135.5. I'm gonna lay the points with Kennesaw. 8 o'clock, Charlotte Rice. My line's Rice 6.5, total 142 and 17/20. And it is 1.5 and 139.5. I'm gonna lay the points at Rice. A&M Commerce and Lamar. My line is Commerce by 3/4, so 142 and 7/20, and it's 5.5 and 138.5. I'm going to take Lamar in the points. Utah Tech and Tarleton. My line's Tarleton by 5 3/4, so 141 and 13/20. And it is 3.5 and 140.5. I'm gonna lay it with Tarleton. Grand Canyon and Abilene Christian. My line is Grand Canyon by 4.5, total 139 and 1/5. And we got 2.5 and 138.5. Laying the points. Troy, Louisiana. My line is Louisiana by 16 1/4, so 142 and 7/20. And it's 5.5 and 143.5. I'm gonna lay with Louisiana. Arkansas State and Southern Miss. My line Southern Miss by 13 3/4, so 135.5. And we got 11.5 and 136.5. I'm gonna lay it with Southern Miss. Old Dominion and South Alabama. My line South Alabama by 4 1/4, so 135 and 11/20. And it's 2.5 and 133.5. I'm gonna take the over. Georgia Southern and Texas State. My line State by 7.5, total 130 and 13/20, and it's 2.5 and 123.5. I'm gonna take the over. South Dakota State and St. Thomas. My line is South Dakota State by 5, total 140 and 9/10. And it's 1.5 and 142.5. I'm gonna lay the points of South Dakota State. Omaha, Kansas City. My line's Kansas City by 7 1/4, so 138.5. And it's 6.5 and 132.5. Over. Denver, Oral Roberts. My line is Oral by 6 3/4, so 151 1/4. And we got 19.5 and 157.5. Under. Tennessee State and Southeast Missouri State. My line is Missouri State by 2 1/4 or 2.5. My bad. Total 149.5. And it's 6.5 and 155.5. Under. North Florida and Central Arkansas. My line's North Florida by 8, total 152 and 19/20. And it's 2.5 and 159.5. Under. McNeese Incarnate Word at 8:30. My line's Incarnate Word by 3. Total 142 and 11/20. And we got McNeese by 2.5. Total 141.5. I'm going to take Incarnate Word plus 2.5 and plus 118. Nichols and A&M Corpus Christi. Mine's Corpus Christi by 2. Total 146 and 4/5. And it's 3.5 and 149.5 under. New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana. My line's Southeast Louisiana by 7 3/4. Total 151 and 17/20. And it's 7.5 and 151.5. Slight over. Seattle and Houston. Sam Houston. My line is Seattle by 1, total 138.5, and it is Sam Houston by 6.5, total 136.5. Give me Seattle plus a 6.5 and plus 235 to win. Eastern Illinois and Southern Indiana. My line's Southern by 10.5, total 145 and 7/20. And we got 11.5 and 145.5. Slight Eastern Illinois. 9 o'clock. Fox Sports 1. Number 1 Purdue at Michigan. My line's Purdue by 5 1/4, total 138 and 3/5. And it's 5.5 and 135.5. Over. ESPN 2, number 8, UCLA at USC. This is probably the Dave Pasch, Bill Walton game. My line's UCLA by 3, total 136 and 9/20, and it's 4.5 and 134.5. Slight over. Colorado, Oregon on the Pac-12 network. My line's Oregon by 9, total 137 and 13/20. And it's 6.5 and 136.5. I'm going to lay the points with Oregon. ESPNU, UTSA, North Texas. My line's North Texas by 23 1/4, total 131 and 3/5. And it's 19.5 and 125.5. Over. La Tech, UAB on CBS Sports Network. By the way, UTSA, North Texas is on ESPNU. So La Tech, UAB. My line's UAB by 8 3/4, so 149 and 17/20. And it's 8.5 and 149.5. Slight over. Houston Christian and Northwestern State. My line is Northwestern State by 9.5, so 153 and 3/20. And it's 11.5 and 152.5. I'm going to take Houston Christian getting the points. Utah Valley and Southern Utah. My line is Utah Valley by 2 3/4, so 150 and 2/5. And it's Southern Utah by 1.5, total 153.5. I'm going to take Utah Valley plus the 1.5 and plus 104 to win. Weber State, Idaho. My line is Weber by 9 3/4, total 138 and 1/20. And it's 2.5 and 136.5. I'm going to lay the points. Idaho State and Eastern Washington. My line's Eastern by 19 3/4, total 141 and 3/4. And it's 10.5 and 141.5. I'm going to lay the points. Lipscomb and Jacksonville State. My line is Lipscomb by 2, total 139 and 13/20, and it's 3.5 and 140.5. I'm going to take a slight lean to Jacksonville State. 10 o'clock, Portland, Loyola, Marymount. My line is Marymount by 1 1/4, total 149 and 9/10, and it's 5.5 and 153.5. So I'm going to take Portland getting the points. San Diego and Pepperdine. My line's San Diego by 6.5, total 156 and a tenth, and it's actually Pepperdine by 3.5, total 162.5. Woo! So I have an almost 6.5 point edge on the under, and a way over 6.5 point edge on San Diego. So I'm gonna take San Diego getting the 3.5 and the plus 150. That's insane. Long Beach State, Cal Poly. My line is Long Beach State by 8.25, total 139 and 3/10, and it is 4.5 and 141.5. Laying the points. UC San Diego and Cal State Northridge. My line is UC San Diego by 1.75, total 134 and a fifth, and it's Northridge by 1.5, total 126.5. I'm taking the over. UC Davis and Bakersfield. My line is Davis by 7.75, total 132 and 7/10, and it is 8.5 and 131.5. This is a tough one. Slight over. Irvine Fullerton. My line is Irvine by 6.25, total 139 and 9/10, and it is 3.5 and 133.5. Over. Montana State, Portland State. My line is Montana State by 11.5, total 143 and 13/20. And it's 5.5 and 143.5. I'm gonna lay the points. Montana and Sacramento State. My line is Sac State by 1/4, total 137 and 4/5, and it's 2.5 and 126.5. Over. 11 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, number 6, Arizona at Washington State. My line is Arizona by 11.25, total 144 and a fifth, and it is 5.5 and 144.5. I'm going to lay the points with Arizona on the road. ESPNU, Arizona State and Washington. My line is Arizona State by 4.75, so I'm 39 and 3/10. And it's 2.5 and 143.5. I'm going to take the under. Utah, Oregon State on CBS Sports Network. My line is Utah by 8.25, so I'm 31 and 9/10. So you never see Pac-12 on CBS Sports Network, so this is a rarity. You see it on big CBS sometimes, but rarity on the CBS SN. All right, that's an odd one. 7.5 and 129.5. I'm gonna go with the slight over. And last but not least, Santa Barbara, Hawaii at midnight. My line is Barbara by 2, Barbara by 1/4, so on 30 and 9/20, and it's Hawaii by a half, total 127.5. I'll take the over. Ooh, that was a long one. All right, NBA. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to a smaller window for tonight. Magic over the Pacers, 126-120. Sixers over the Nets, 137-133. Wiz over the Rockets, 108-103. Bucks over the Nuggets, 107-99. Wolves over the Pelicans, 111-102. Hawks over the Thunder, 137-132. Warriors over the Grizz, 122-120. Blazers over the Jazz, 134-124. Raptors over the Kings, 113-95. And the Lakers over the Spurs, 113-104. All right, 6 games tonight, 7:30. TNT, Knicks, Celtics from TD Garden. My line is Boston by 8, total 227 and 9/10. And we got 8.5 and 223. I like the over a lot. Jaylen Brown back for Boston. I like the over. Pistons, Nets. My line's Nets by 8, total 229, and it's 7.5 and 233. Under, no Durant. Although they went way over yesterday. And they're going to be tired. Bulls, Hornets. My line is Chicago by 8.75, so 230 and a fifth, and it's 5.5 and 234. Under. 8 o'clock, Cavs, Rockets. My line is Cavs by 15, total 222 and 4/5, and it's 8.5 and 221.5. I'm going to lay the 8.5 with Cleveland on the road. TNT, 10 o'clock. Mavs, Suns. Probably Kevin Harlan, Reggie Miller on this game. And I would assume Brian Anderson and Stan Van Gundy for the other game. Mavs I have projected by 2 3/4 favorite, total 225 and a 20th. And then it's Suns 1.5, total 221. So I have a 4 1/4 edge on the Mavs. And I have a 4 20th edge on the over. So I'm going to take Dallas plus the 1.5 and even money to win. And 10:30 Spurs Clippers. My line is the Clippers by 18 1/4, total 227 3/4, and it's 12.5 and 233.5. So similar math equation here a little bit. 5 3/4 edge on the Clippers. And a 5 3/4 edge on the under. So it's the same point edge I have for both sides. But where do I go? I'm going to lay the points with the Clippers. I just think the Spurs are throwing in the towel. All right, now move on to the NHL. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's large slate. Leafs over the Rangers 3-2 in OT on a game winner by Mitchell Marner. Sens over the Isles 2-1. Canes over the Stars 3-2 in OT on a game winner by Martin Nesas. Blue Jackets over the Oilers 3-2 in overtime on a game winner by Kent Johnson. And the Kraken over the Canucks 6-1. All right. We have 9 games tonight in hockey. 7 o'clock, we have the Red Wings and the Canadiens from Montreal. Detroit's a minus 170 favorite. Montreal's plus 140 over under 6. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Detroit minus 1.5 is plus 148. Montreal plus 1.5 is minus 184. I like the under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Probably the game of the night on paper, Bruins Lightning. The Bruins are minus 115. The Lightning's minus 104 over under 6, minus 120. Bruins minus 1.5 is plus 198. Lightning plus 1.5 is minus 250. I will go. Boston. This reminds me of that Rangers game they had last week. I'm going to lay to minus 115 with the Bruins. How often are you going to see a historically great team as such a slight favorite? I know, don't underestimate the heart of a champion. They've been the Golden State Warriors of this era. But, no, give me Boston. Pens Caps. Another great game from DC. Caps minus 118. Pens minus 102 over under 6.5. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 115. Pens plus 1.5 is minus 250. Caps minus 1.5 is plus 198. I'm going to go with the over in this game because I can't pick a winner. That's too tough of a call. ESPN Plus, Flyers Wild at 8 o'clock. Wild minus 50, Flyers plus 202 over under 6, minus 10 each way. Flyers plus 1.5 is minus 108. Wild minus 1.5 is plus 104. I like the over here too. Devils Preds. Devils minus 137, Preds plus 114 over under 6, overs minus 112, unders minus 108. Devils minus 1.5 is plus 184, Preds plus 1.5 is minus 230. These two teams played earlier in the year. Devils blew a lead, and the Preds won it in OT. So Devils might have revenge on their mind. So I'm going to go New Jersey in regulation at plus 122, just as a ballsy pick. And I like how they're playing. They've kind of turned it on a little bit. Sabres Jets. Jets minus 192, Sabres plus 158, over under 6.5, overs minus 114, unders minus 106. Buffalo plus 1.5 is minus 160, Jets minus 1.5 is plus 130. Buffalo's playing a lot better lately. I like the vibe they have, I'm going to take them plus 158 to win at Winnipeg. 9 o'clock, Blues Coyotes. Blues minus 162, Coyotes plus 134, over under 6.5, overs minus 108, unders minus 112, Blues minus 1.5 is plus 152, Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 188. I'm going to go Arizona plus 134 to knock off St. Louis. Blackhawks Flames. Flames minus 420, Blackhawks plus 320, over under 6, overs minus 112, unders minus 108. Blackhawks plus 1.5 is minus 152, or 2.5 I should say, and then Flames minus 2.5 is plus 124. I really like the over in this game a lot. And then Ducks Avs. Avs 4-1 favorite. Ducks plus 410, over under 6.5. Overs minus 102, unders minus 120. Ducks plus 2.5 is minus 144. Avs minus 2.5 is plus 118. I'm going to go over for this one as well. All right, now move on to the Australian Open. We'll go over the results from yesterday, and the men's semifinals are tonight. All right, so the women's semifinal. 5 seed Arina Sablenka over Magda Linette in 2 sets. And 22 seed Elena Rybakina over 24 seed Victoria Azarenka in 2 sets. So your final is going to be Rybakina and Sabalenka. So that's a really good final for Saturday. So we have the men's semifinals tonight. 10:30, you have 18 seed Karen Kakdavov and 3 seed Stefanos Tsitsipas. Should be a great semifinal. Tsitsipas is a minus 240 favorite, and Kakdavov's a 2-1 dog. So I'm gonna go to set betting. This is, like I said, I think it's going to be a wonderful match. I just think that Tsitsipas is better. So I'm going to take a 3-1 at plus 280. And then the second of the 2 matches is at 3:30 a.m. tonight. You have Tommy Paul and 4 seed Novak Djokovic. Djokovic is a minus 2,000 favorite. Tommy Paul is a plus 1220 underdog. Djokovic at 3-0 is minus 180. That's too much juice. Djokovic spread is crazy too. So I'm going to go total match games 3.5. Overs minus 122, unders minus 110. I'm going to go with under total match games 3.5 at minus 110. That's a prop I've never given out on tennis before, but I'm just going to do it here. All right, now I'll move on to soccer. We'll go over the results from yesterday in all the leagues, and we have some big ones today in soccer that we have to get to. All right, Copa del Rey is where we'll begin. Barcelona over Real Sociedad 1-0, and Osasuna over Sevilla 2-1 in extra time. All right, 2 games today. 2 o'clock, you have Valencia and Athletic. Should be a really good one. Athletic is plus 150. Valencia is plus 180. Draws plus 195. Both these teams have been hot-ish of late. But I'm going to go with Athletic at plus 150. And then 3 o'clock, you have Real Madrid and Atletico. Real Madrid's a minus 120 favorite. Madrid's plus 310. The draw's plus 230. I'm going to go with over 2.5 goals at minus 104. All right. The Dutch Eredivisie. AZ Alkmaar over the Go Ahead Eagles 4-1. Vitesse and FC Twente 2-2 draw. Fortuna over Heerenveen 2-0. FC Utrecht over Excelsior 1-0, and Feyenoord over NEC 2-0. Two games today, 12:45. You have FC Groningen and Cambuur. Oof, this game features two teams that are sliding. So I'm gonna pull off the odds here. FC Groningen's plus 115. Cambuur's plus 220. The draw's plus 210. I'm going with the draw plus 210. And at 3 o'clock, Ajax and FC Volendam. Ajax is a minus 1150 favorite. Volendam's 14-1. The draw's 9-1. I'm going to go under 3.5 goals at plus 124. And then tonight you have Mexican Liga, Atlas and Santos. Atlas is plus 125. Santos is 2-1. The draw is plus 240. Santos is playing well lately. I just think that the draw is the better place. We go the draw plus 240. All right, now we're just going to look at other stuff of note that has to be discussed before moving on to the next segment. German Bundesliga from yesterday. Dortmund over Mainz 2-1. Leverkusen over Bochum 2-0. Augsburg over Gladbach 1-0. Freiburg and Frankfurt 1-1 draw. And Union Berlin over Bremen 2-1. There's a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, so soccer tomorrow on the show is going to be very busy. All right, now move on to golf. We'll go over the current leaderboard for the Farmers Insurance Open. You have a three-way tie at the top right now with 8 under. It's Sam Ryder, it's Aaron Ray, and it's Ben Grant. Fourth place with 7 under is Brendan Steele. Fifth place tie with 6 under is C. Thiglia, Hayden Buckley, Scott Stevens, Andrew Novak, Grayson Higo, Gary Woodland, Luke List, Harry Higgs, Colin Morikawa, Siwoo Kim, Ben Griffin, Taylor Montgomery, Lucas Griffin, Vincent Norman, tied for 19th with 4 under, Jason Day, Will Zalatoris, Max Homa, Dylan Wu, Justin Sue, Byung-Ganon, Charlie Hoffman, Jonathan Vegas, Sudi Kodiara, Sanjay M, Wyndham Clark, Justin Thomas, Paul Haley, Thomas Dietrich, Stefan Yakers in the tie for 33rd at 3 under with Scott Brown, Maverick McNeely, Michael Thompson, Sean O'Hare, Davis Riley, Patrick Rogers, Keita Nakajima, Peter Malnati, Michael Kim, Siwoo Kim, Taylor Pendrith, Sam Piercy, Jimmy Walker, Joseph Brumlett, MJ Dauphe, Joey Verzreek. Tied for 50th with 2 under, Ben Martin, Lucas Hodges, Dylan Fratelli, Camp Champ, JB Holmes, Henrik Norlander, JJ Spawn, Hideki Matsuyama, Kevin Westmoreland, Harrison Endicott, Robbie Shelton, Adam Hadwin, Sechung Du, Brian Stewart, Keegan Bradley, Robert Streb, Patton Kazir, Sangul No, Ben Taylor, Emiliano Goya, and Nicholas Echevarria. Tied for 71st with 1 under. Now we're just going to go through notables because of time here. Adam Schenk, Brendan Haas, Alex Baddeley, Ryan Palmer, Trey Millenex, Nate Hardy, Kevin Roy, Brian Matthews, Callum Tarrant, Alex Molly, Adam Long, Danny Lee, Tied for 92nd at even, Hank Lebioda, Kevin Tway, Taylor Moore, Doc Redman, Martin Landzander, Shoffley, Kyle Stanley, Eric Cole, Will Gordon, Patrick Knowles, Nate Watney, Bryce Garnett, Ricky Fowler, Richie Wierenski, Joakim Herman, Tyler Alexander, Emiliano Grillo. Tied for 16th with 1 over. Sebastian Munoz, B.U. Hostler, Matthew Neesmith, Jonathan Bird, Justin Rose, Kevin Stroman, John Rahm, Justin Lauer, Tony Finau. Tied for 128th with 2 over. Adam Svensson, Matt Trainer, Cam Young, Austin Smotherman's in a tie for 138th with 3 over with Camilo Vegas and Cam Piercy. Tied for 144th with 4 over. Tyler Duncan, Harry English, Ryan Moore. Tied for 149th with 5 over. Kurt Katayama, Michael Giljic, Doug Gibb. And 154th with 7 over is Cam Davis. All right, now I'm going to do an NBA trade deadline segment where I'm going to go team by team and discuss potential players that can either be on the move for each team or guys that would be good fits. We'll start in the Atlantic Division, and we're going to start the team that I think is front and center of trade rumors right now. That's the Toronto Raptors. They're a team that is getting the vibes of a seller. I think that Masai Ujiri knows it's not their year. I think that OG Anunoby's the most likely guy on the roster to be traded. I think that they're going to get a lot for him. I think that Fred VanVleet could also be on the move. Pascal Siakam, I think, is a long shot, but I would keep him for now if I'm Toronto. Because you still have a shot at the last spot in the play-in, so don't blow it up entirely if you're the Raptors, I would say. Next, another team that is in the bubble right now, meaning like the play-in bubble. Like if the season were to end today, they'd be in the play-in tournament, but I think that they've solidified themselves as a team that's probably going to be in the play-in tournament. That's the New York Knicks. They're under a lot of pressure to make a trade, and preferably for a star. OG Anunoby doesn't qualify as a star, but he's above average. Depending on how long Mitchell Robinson's out for, maybe they go get a big man for depth purposes. But to me, a spot that they should upgrade is the wing spot. Whether it's a 6-man player or somebody that can come in and start right away. RJ Barrett's been disappointing this year, I think, for what he was supposed to be. That's not to say he's a bust or anything like that. It's kind of like an Andrew Wiggins situation here. And Andrew Wiggins has turned into a very above-average player on a championship team. That's what I think RJ Barrett's destiny is right now. In that like Andrew Wiggins thing. But, like, that's not bad. I mean, Knicks fans might consider that a disappointment, but looking at it, Andrew Wiggins has turned into a valuable player on a championship contender in Golden State. Sometimes it just takes time for a player to develop. And RJ's still very young. So if they were to trade him, it would have to be for a star. It would have to be for somebody like, I don't know, let's say, I don't think this team's going to fall out, but let's say the Miami Heat fell out of contention and Jimmy Butler became available. That's a good example of that. Yeah, they're a team under immense pressure to make a move. And we'll see what they can do. Brooklyn, they're another team under immense pressure, in my opinion, to make a move. They even put some veterans out into the trade market to help improve themselves. Seth Curry, Joe Harris, and Patty Mills. I think Curry's going to gauge a lot of interest as a sixth-man type of player. Maybe that's the guy the Knicks can look at, but I don't think the Knicks would trade with the Nets. But we'll see what those veterans can fetch him. Maybe somebody like a Reggie Bullock who could help Brooklyn, and maybe Seth Curry goes back to Dallas. Like maybe something like that. And with more pieces involved, obviously. The Boston Celtics, to me, they're probably one of the best three teams in the East, barring injuries and such. To me, they have to upgrade their bench. I think their starting unit's fine. I think Jason Tatum can be the guy on a championship team. I just think that Steph Curry got ridiculously hot those last couple games of the finals, or else Boston probably would have won the finals. So I just think that they need to upgrade their bench. And the hottest team in the division, the team that I think might steal that 1 seed in the East, the Philadelphia 76ers. For me, they're a big wild card. They can do anything. They, I think, are a team that could look to improve anywhere pretty much. I think that they're a great team on paper. Doc Rivers has done a great job, like, helping them ride the ship after a rocky start by that fan base and that media and that city's standards. So, I think the Philadelphia 76ers are a huge wild card in the trade market. That can go in any way. Like, nothing would stun me with Philadelphia. Now we'll go to the Southeast Division. Now the Miami Heat are another wild card kind of team. I think that they're going to finish in the top 6 in the conference. I think at the guard spot, they were trying to upgrade something better than Kyle Lowry, who's available for trade. So that's a position I'm looking at for Miami. Something else to monitor with that team is like potential bench help and depth behind Bam Adebayo at the center position. The Atlanta Hawks are the biggest feast or famine team in the conference. You're hearing that Trae Young is like the next guy, big name to be traded, but that wouldn't be at the deadline. That would probably be in the offseason if that were to happen. But I'd be stunned if Trae Young was traded at the trade deadline this year. I wouldn't be stunned if he's dealt in the summer, depending on how the Hawks season finishes. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Hawks do. For me, it's their bench. Their starting five's amazing. They just got to upgrade their bench. Charlotte's going to be a seller. Literally everyone on that team's on the table except for LaMelo. Washington already traded Rui Hachimura. It looks like they're going to keep Kyle Kuzma, which I think is a mistake because if he walks in free agency, they have egg on their face. And that's the same old Wizards. And the last team in that division is the Orlando Magic. That's a team that I think is going to be a force to be reckoned with next season in the East. Like, they're going to be a playoff team next year in the East, I think. Because they just have a lot of young talent, and they're a team, Orlando, that is really, they're bad, but they're fun to watch. Super fun. And they have a ton of franchise players that are, not a ton, but like a ton of like keepers, I should say. But Banchero's a franchise guy, and I think that Franz Wagner's going to be an all-star down the road too. So they have a very, very bright future. But I just don't see them like making any trades. The Central Division, we'll start with a team that I think is a little bit of an unknown right now in the Chicago Bulls. Like maybe 2 months ago, we were talking about sell, DeRozan, go, Levine, go, Vucevic, go. I mean, they might do a little bit of both. I can see them doing a little bit of both. And but if I'm them, you keep DeRozan, you keep Levine, Caruso. I mean, depending on how they do these next 2 weeks, that's going to determine their fate. The Indiana Pacers have fallen off a little bit since the injury to Tyrese Halliburton. Depending on when he comes back, I think will determine whether they're going to be a buyer or a seller. And whether Miles Turner and Buddy Hield will finally be traded or not. Next is the Detroit Pistons. They're going to be a seller. I think Bojan Bogdanovic is going to be traded. I think some of their other guys are going to be traded, like Nerlens Noel and some of the other veterans they have. The Milwaukee Bucks. Bobby Portis is injured. We're going to talk about that in news and notes. But power forward is a spot they should be looking at. Like, would they take a shot on, like, Knicks forward Obi Toppin? And then they give the Knicks, like, a first-round pick and something else? Or something like that. I'm trying to think of who else would fit that power forward hole that the Bucks have now with Portis injured. And Portis has become such a good player for the Milwaukee Bucks, too. And the last team in that division is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are obviously going to be a buyer. They have to upgrade the wing spot. Isaac Okoro, to me, is just not the answer. And I don't really love LeVert either. So, would the Pistons trade in division? That would be very interesting. And then the Western Conference. We'll start in the Pacific Division. We'll start with the team that's all of a sudden red hot and within striking distance of the top 6 in the West. And call me crazy for saying that they're in striking distance, but they actually are, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers. They're the most interesting team in the West. They trade for Rui Hachimura. We'll see how that works out. They have all those picks that they want to trade. And the question is, who? Is it for those Charlotte guys? Is it for maybe the Indiana guys if Halliburton's not back in time? If the Bulls fall apart, is it for the Raptor guys? So, yeah, that's very interesting. And then the team in their building's interesting, too, the Clippers. They're looking at all areas to improve. They're always looking everywhere. But the truth and the reality about the Clippers is that their roster outside of Kawhi and Paul George is overrated. Like, we overrated their role players, like, badly over the last couple of years. So, I'm interested to see where they go. The Warriors, they're always going to be in it. Their owner and their GM likes to go for it as long as Stephen Curry's still on the roster. And they apparently don't want to trade the kids, but you're going to have to trade one of those kids if you really want a real shot at repeating in terms of getting somebody good. Because I just think that, I know the West is wide open, but the East is better all of a sudden. With, like, Boston is better than they were a year ago, I think. And Milwaukee, once they get healthy, no one's stopping Giannis. So I think that the Warriors have to do something if they really want to repeat. The Phoenix Suns, I think, are a little bit of an unknown. To me, it's the Devin Booker factor. They'll probably go for it because they're the Suns and they have Booker and CP, although CP's old. And Sacramento is a team facing a lot of pressure at the deadline. They're definitely going to go for it, I'd say. And then we'll go to the Southwest Division. We'll start with the Dallas Mavericks. They really don't have any avenues to get better. They have to be creative a little bit and try to deal from their roster to try to upgrade. The Spurs, they're going to be tanking, obviously. Jakob Poeltl's available. We'll see who gets him. The Houston Rockets, Eric Gordon. Like, Eric Gordon's not worth a first-round pick. Like, come on. I've said that on the podcast, like, twice already within the last month. The Memphis Grizzlies, I think, are going to go for it. And so are the New Orleans Pelicans. They're in a similar situation. Because this is their window to go for it while John Morant and Zion Williamson, respectively, are on the rookie scale extensions. And then down the road, long term, they're going to be taking up that cap. So those two teams are under immense pressure to go for it, especially New Orleans because of Zion and Brandon Ingram, and they have CJ. So I think they're under more pressure than Memphis to make a move, because I think Memphis is closer to a championship right now than New Orleans. And then last but not least, the Northwest Division. Oklahoma City's interesting. They're within striking distance of the postseason too, like an actual playoffs rather than the play-in, like the Lakers. And they should go for it. They should. Because if they don't go for it, what if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes up to them and says, I'm demanding a trade because we already have a good team. I know Chet's not here, Chet Holmgren, but we have a good team. So that's something to keep an eye on. OKC's under pressure, I think, to potentially go for it. Minnesota, they've been up and down all year. They've been better lately than they were to start the year. The Rudy Gobert trade was awful, as we know. But what's their move? To trade D'Angelo Russell and upgrade at point guard? The Utah Jazz are a wild card because of the potential of which direction they can go. Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler are obviously untouchable. I think everybody else could be traded, but we'll see where they are in 2 weeks. Portland, I think they're another we'll see type of team. Damian Lillard's very loyal. I think he wants to stay in Portland. They have a lot of good young assets that if they were to move on from Dame down the road, they can build around. And Shannon Sharp and the other guard, Fernie Simons. So Portland can go in either direction. They could trade Jeremy Grant and try to bottom out, or they could try to upgrade some like power forward or something and try to go for it. And then the last team that we have to discuss, arguably the best team in the NBA, with the best player in the NBA right now, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. They've been my best bet baby lately. I know they pushed for me yesterday. But Denver, I think, really is a major piece away from being the team to beat. I think the spot that they gotta upgrade is, like, the small forward spot. Michael Porter Jr., I think, is a little bit of an unknown. He's a huge wild card on that team. Aaron Gordon's a really perfect player for Jokic. I love Jamal Murray. So maybe it's 2-guard that they got to upgrade. So it's more like the wing position, per se. So we'll see what they can do in that spot. I like Condavious Caldwell-Pope, but to me, he's more suited as a 6th man. All right, so there you have it for NBA trade deadline talk. Abbreviated news and notes. So the Boston Herald came out with a report about dysfunction in the Patriots organization. A Pat source said that Belichick messed them up. He pretty much said he fucked them over. That's what he pretty much said. And it was a deep dive on their offensive issues. Whew. It's just going to be a rapid fire. Jets hired Nathaniel Hackett for their offensive coordinator position. I don't like that hire. I think that was a hire in hopes of them landing Aaron Rodgers. So that's just same old Jets. So U.S. Soccer president says that Greg Berhalter is still in contention to stay on as the head coach for the USMNT. So that's pretty interesting. The Ben Simmons champs were out and about in Philly yesterday. That's not surprising. Ryan O'Reilly wants to stay in St. Louis. He says, this is where I want to be. I hope I don't get moved. And speaking of trades, we had a trade yesterday in hockey. San Jose sends Matt Nieto and Ryan Merkley to Colorado for Jacob McDonald and Martin Kraut. I like that deal for Colorado. Gives them some depth. And Colorado wants to be back to where they were a year ago. Spencer Dinwiddie says that the Wizards don't play winning basketball, and Kyle Kuzma clapped back on him. Of course, Spencer Dinwiddie said that. Dinwiddie's just a trash talker. Never liked him. Never will like him. And Kuzma has every right to clap back at him. Willie Green got really mad at a ref last night. He was ejected for the first time as a head coach after a heated exchange. Kyrie Irving wants to stay with the Nets. And Kyrie's agent says the ball is in the Nets' court regarding a contract extension. The Knicks could keep Derrick Rose and could wait until the offseason to include him in a trade package for a star. Ooh. I don't think anybody wants Derrick Rose. He's old and washed up at this point. Maybe other than maybe the Bulls. I would include him if the Knicks were to acquire Alex Caruso. I would throw Derrick Rose in that trade. I think that's the only team that really wants the Derrick Rose at this point. Tampa Bay gives Jeffrey Springs an extension, 4 years, $31 million. Nice extension for Jeffrey Springs and the Rays. So Artie Moreno's decision not to sell the Angels makes it far less likely that Ohtani stays in Anaheim. Yeah, no shit. Even if they were sold, then he wouldn't want to be there either. They're under pressure. They have to trade him because they're going to lose him for nothing next winter, and that's going to be a shame. So Patrick Mahomes fully participated in practice yesterday, so that is great news for the Chiefs. We talked about Bobby Portis a little bit in the last segment. He'll miss time with an MCL sprain in his right knee. That's a big loss for the Milwaukee Bucks, as he's a really good player for them. And the last piece of news here, Bob Myers could leave the Warriors. He may become a free agent this summer with the Knicks, Wizards, and Suns as potential landing spots. The Wizards make a ton of sense. The Suns make a lot of sense with the new owner in town and might not want to keep James Jones. And if the Knicks fail to get a star, maybe Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau lose their jobs, and then the Knicks would have to fall apart, obviously, from where they are right now. Maybe they lose in the play-in tournament, and Dolan says, Thibodeau didn't make the playoffs, and Leon Rose didn't trade for a start. He fires both of them, and then he brings in Bob Myers, which would be really, really interesting. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. Best bet yesterday was a push as I took Denver plus the 8 in Milwaukee, and Nikola Jokic didn't even play, and they covered, which is wild. So for today, there's one that stood out to me. It was in hockey. I love the over in the Blackhawks-Flames game. I think the Flames are going to do it by themselves. I could see them winning this game like 6-1. So I'm going to lay a unit over 6 between the Blackhawks and the Flames. All right, so that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow for the Big Friday show. And obviously, we will look ahead to the weekend ahead. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.